All right, we're going to get started here in just a moment. I apologize. It's been forever since I've streamed on YouTube, so I currently have no idea what I'm doing. um, but it's exciting. I'm super excited. I think I've got most of it set up. Just gonna check again. All right. Anyways, how are you doing? I know it's a late stream. Unfortunately, I didn't know a good time for people, so I kind of just picked an appropriate time, I thought. People could watch it while they're at work or etc., etc. But I do apologize because it probably is a little late for most people. I think the entire community is just all around the world, so I unfortunately don't think I could put together a decent time for anybody. All right. We are in the game now. Exciting stuff. We're in the game. We're ready to play. Looks like everything's going smoothly. I don't see any major issues anywhere. Let me just adjust more of my stuff on screen so it's not so cluttered. They can actually see stuff. Cool. All right. All right. Now, I know there probably won't be a large majority of people in the stream. I'm just going to be talking to myself most of the time. I'm fine with that. I'm used to that, actually. But this stream is being recorded, so if you're at home and it's just a VOD now, so if you have any questions though, you can still ask them in the comments section, which is awesome because I will totally try to answer them to the best of my ability. Yeah, I mean, I think let's just play a little bit, and then we'll get into the topics I want to talk about today, and into other things as well. So, all right. So I just made this small little settlement. It's a little settlement full of people. They've kind of already been doing stuff, so I'm not really worried about them at all. But yeah, so we'll just let that play in the background. Now there are sounds. If I can see, they're very, very quiet. Let me adjust them real quick. Okay. Now, there is an issue. Let's go ahead. I think I was experimenting with the new blocks. I've added the actual stairs. And for some reason, I've been having some trouble with them. I don't know. If you can see here, this is not the direction or the shape in which it's represented. So, get that out. So I don't know what's going on there. I'll have to fix that. But I also think saving, or like when this guy builds it, if we ever reloaded the game, the stairs wouldn't be there, unfortunately. I don't know why. Anyways, we're gonna turn on some dev mode cheats, stuff like that. Just kind of see into the block. So These are very these were very difficult, first off. These were very difficult because a lot of the code is hand built. Like all of this is hand placed mesh and UVs and normals, and I've had issues with trying to do these shapes via the engine itself. There were a few things that were happening that I couldn't specifically line up the textures very well. And that was just for a little bit of errors that I had to account for. So, other than that, we're going to. All right, so sorry about that. But there will be more optimizations in a later date to kind of go over the shapes of the actual stairs in an eventual update. But for now, they are finally in. I've had such a headache trying to get them done, and now that they're done, I still have to work on them. um, anyway, we're kind of just doing different stuff here. We will be talking about UI as well today. In fact, I'm going to actually probably make a list right now. So UI, blocks, shapes. If you have any topics that you want me to discuss, you can go ahead and give them to me. I will try to discuss them at some point. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the most the topic that I kind of want to talk and discuss with you guys about. So the last update, before the patch, um, it was a while for anything to come out, and I do apologize for that. Unfortunately, I couldn't really do anything about it. Uh, First off, the stairs were a huge problem for me. Second off, I was working a lot, and therefore I couldn't actually develop anything for a hot minute. Third off, my source control thing wasn't as organized as I wanted it to be, and therefore it was harder to push out bug fixes. And now that's fixed, so don't worry. Bug fixes should be easier, hopefully. And yeah, just some other things I think that I don't really want to talk about, but basically I apologize. I wish that I could I wish I could have pushed it out sooner. It would have been nice, but it's been a hot minute. I think it was 8 months ago, the last update. And this update was so small, I felt terrible about it. And I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of sucky. But I'm still developing it, so that's the important part. I don't know. It's kind of demotivating that I'm developing, kind of working on a game that was discontinued in 2015. So, um, but it's also fun because I'm the only one. Well, I've got some team members now, so that's great. We're making them at home. Hopefully, they'll get started here soon. We just got to make sure that they're all set up and everything like that. Um, and I just got to get used to having a team as well. That's one thing. Teams are a pretty different issue that I haven't actually like messed with before. um, Looks like we are getting a little bit of masonry, so I'm gonna actually. So here's the thing, though. You go through this menu, and the reason why I hate it so much, the reason why I specifically wanted to make a new UI, is because of this drop down menu. There's so many options. You have to read. You can't use icons, which is not very eye friendly and not very click click. There you go. It's more of like here's a button, then here's a button, and then here's a button. It's like it's pretty bad. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've went into a menu by accident and then had to completely go out of it again. Um, like that. I meant to click the masonry stockpile here. So hopefully he will build that stockpile, which he needs to do. This stream also acts as a test. So we're going to be doing some testing and making things pretty and all of that other stuff. There are some things that I am super ecstatic about. Some things that I've been thinking about. I've been trying to feel like how could I implement it well. What happens when I want it to be cool, right? So let's just discuss that. So whenever a person leveled up, which somebody just did, Nolan Deluck is now a level 3 miner. So Nolan, I really want a sound, not like super blaring or obvious, but a sound that whenever the miner is done mining their stuff, a sound like a small little blip and you can adjust it in the settings if you want to mute it, or if you want to just turn the slider down so it's not so loud. It will be global, so it won't be like, if I'm over here, I won't be able to hear it. It will be like no matter where you are. And basically, it's just going to be a little blip. And then another thing that I want to try to see if I can do is maybe adding either like a level up animation, not necessarily the settler being celebratory, but more of like a ring of a green stuff. I don't know how to show you. It's difficult to explain, but it's buried in my mind, and I really want to do it real bad. I think it's going to be very fun. So let's get into outlines and why they're so weird. So we're actually taking the mesh of the actual settler, and because everything is kind of disconnected and discontinued and all that stuff, you will see little bits and bobs sticking out. Unfortunately, there is no way to work around that other than messing with these actual models. But I don't have the time for that, and I don't necessarily think it's something that is necessary. I would rather work on other things than work on the models right now. I have in the past shown a rework of the models. I haven't worked on it since, but I do think adding it into the game would be cool. However, I think I'm saving it for something special. So I'm going to keep it at that for now. That's what we're gonna do. Anyway, super fantastic. That's a little bit different. Super fantastic. We've got beautiful shaders. These were probably the first additions into the mod. Hi, sorry, I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name. Just want to say thank you so much for reviving this game. I had an absolute blast playing it when it was made. I also had an absolute blast. Whenever it first came out, I was ecstatic because I actually was super excited. I think I was watching Generic B play it, and for the first time, it was like, this is cool. I want to play it, and then I think I went out and bought it on Steam, and it had like, it was an old video of Generic, so I was late to the game, but it already had the texture update and stuff like that, so I didn't really get to experience the upbringing of the game pretty much. But yes, I'm super excited to get into hopefully making the community better, or not better, but like more stronger in its boots or something. I don't know. I couldn't tell you the thing for that. Anyway, so there are things that I do want to add more, and let's get into that here in just a second. Okay, so our people are doing fantastic. They are doing some wonderful work here. We are going to go ahead and experiment, and experimenting will be kind of weird. It's not going to be very pretty because I'm not really worried about that right now, and I don't really know if I can think that hard while I'm streaming and doing this and trying to think of topics to say. Let's go back into the UI and what I really want to do. I really want to get rid of this bar up here, or at least half of it. It takes up way too much space, in my opinion. I feel like it needs to be, what I'm thinking about right now is moving this, and this, I think, and even this, into their own windows. So these design, the queue, the resources, the storage bar will be in their own windows, and hopefully that will make it to where you can actually see what you're going to build before you even click a button, which is important because I think constantly going through a menu and clicking buttons, and then button to see what you're wanting to build is is tedious, but it also I think it limits our creativity because you cannot actually see what you want to build, right? You don't actually know what you're going to want to build until you see the preview. And that's the unfortunate part, is that you have to go through all those clicks to get to that preview. And sometimes you misclick and you sit into the farms and then you go and then you're like, objects. I can't tell you how many times I go to objects and then I think that, oh, I'm going to grab cobblestone brown. So I'm going to go to objects and then I'm going to go, oh, wait, this is the objects menu. And then I have to think that it's actually in the construction menu. And there we are. But yeah, that's kind of the big issue for me right now is that design menu. Everything else is kind of understandable, resources, storage, queue. But I do want to update them to be a little bit more, not necessarily more modern, but a little bit more accessible, a little bit easier to see, to where you're not, again, clicking a whole bunch of buttons, because clicking is tedious and, something that I don't necessarily want. Anyway, unless you, of course, want to. Looks like we have our food storage going pretty good. I don't have a way to do anything about that just yet. One thing that I thought of, I think they already do this, actually. Never mind. I was thinking, like, one thing that I thought of is if their profession storage thing is full, then don't go out and do that. But I think they already do that anyway. So I'm not going to touch that. There's a lot of things that I think about, and then I'm like, oh wait, that's already in the game, which is pretty bad. I do that a lot. Anyway, food. I'm just gonna let them do what they want to do. We're on peaceful mode right now. That is a part of the mod, and we also have no fog of war, which is something that I've always wanted ever since I've ever made this mod. I think it was part of another mod. I can't remember, but I don't think it's available anymore, or if it is, I couldn't tell you. I haven't been keeping up on that. Another thing that we're going to do is just make sure that it's always day, because I don't know about YouTube streaming very well, and I don't know, like, every time that I try to stream to YouTube, it's super bad. Bad quality, it just kind of sucks. As well as, you might notice that the latency isn't very great. And the reason for that is because I have to put it on normal latency, and that's super late to responding to questions, and that sucks. So please bear with me as we go through the live stream. As well, I just want to say that putting it lower on to low latency scale, so where it's a low latency, dwindles the quality quite significantly. So I cannot, for the life of me, do that just yet. I don't think they have a very good system just yet for that. So hopefully the quality is going to be good, so you guys can see what I'm doing, other than a jarbled mess of pixels. So I hope that that's going to be good for us. Looks like wood is going a little too heavy. Again, you can already see that I'm being messy here with this raw wood stack. Go right there. So I think I can't really hear it. I have my headphones to the side. Yeah. So we have atmospheric sounds going on. That is now adjustable with your sound effects slider. And I will try to maybe put that in its own category, but for now I only have two two atmospheric sounds, so I don't think it's necessary for now. But eventually I will be adding more sounds to the game, because like graphics, I think sounds are what pulls the games together quite significantly. So I think sounds will definitely be a big strive for this project, especially just button sounds, because I did make I did have at once upon a time a thing where you click buttons and then it actually made a sound, but unfortunately that code wasn't viable for release. It wasn't going to be able to be viable for release until I figured out how to have that data internally, because that was externally. I was grabbing files outside of the game, which is bad because that means you'd have to install not just my mod, but you'd have to install the sounds and the sounds files, texture files into it. It would just be a mess. And I think 2 files that you are trying to install is way more than enough. So I think that is perfectly fine. But looks like we're doing great here. Food storage is high, but that's fine. We just have, I picked a large map, which means lag, but it also means that we have lots of food, lots of berries. So hopefully we can get food pretty good without having to do any farms, because that I don't like farming inside of Timber and Stone. I hate it, actually. It just doesn't make sense to me that you have to have workers working the fields, like, as they're growing. Even in real life, farmers don't do that. So I have thought about maybe reworking the farming mechanics, but I have not put much thought in it, so I'm not ready to reveal anything. But if you have suggestions, or if you want to keep it, by all means tell me, because that will be very useful information. But it would be nice to have those farmers when there isn't anything that they can harvest or plant to be in the workforce, because that would be nice. So then you can actually use them in other parts of your settlement. But for now, we're just rolling with the default mechanics. I haven't messed with them at all. All right, so let's get into blocks. Blocks. Now, blocks are, in my opinion, very beautiful. Very beautiful. Like, all these blocks are very beautiful, right? To keep up with that quality, I probably will not be adding any blocks, any custom blocks, unless it is specifically requested by the community. I added these stairs, but I didn't mean shapes. I mean like actual, like different textured blocks. Probably won't be adding any more blocks. The reason for that is because I think the things that we have in game is more than okay. It's actually probably enough for now. Maybe later in the day, we can add more, or if there's specific updates that I need to do for like a specific update. I don't want to give anything away, but um, then having custom blocks with that theme would probably be a good way to add more life into the update as well. Kind of like how Minecraft does it, where they don't just add features like gameplay features, but they also add blocks to kind of build with something new, something fresh. I totally understand it. I just don't think I will be adding it right now, if at all. So don't keep your hopes up on it. But I do want to say that it's something that I am currently thinking about. I just don't know if it's going to happen. Okay, shapes. Shapes. Okay, so stairs were the most complicated shape inside of the game itself. Shapes were just outstandingly painful for me, or just stairs right now were outstandingly painful, as I've stressed before. I don't know why, but because of the way they were a pain in the butt. They were an absolute pain, and that is the problem is that they are in the game, but I still have to run optimizations on them. I got to get rid of a few parts of it whenever you can't see them, because right now, if we were to go into, so let me go ahead and just demonstrate before I do this. Hold on. Okay. So we're in debug mode. That means you can go through the terrain. This is a feature that's always been around. It's pronounced Minske, by the way. Are you going to want to crowdfund to get this off the ground a bit more / faster, or just work on it when you have free time before I assume another job? So I have thought about crowdfunding, not necessarily funding, but more of like Ko-fi, like buy me a coffee, or I would, or it would be like a donation, really. However, with the current pace of development, I don't think it's necessarily a good idea, because then expectations will always hurt me in the long run. So like, oh, I'm paying you, therefore I want an update now. I cannot. I don't have that. I can't feel that responsibility. I can't have that just yet. I have been working on trying to figure out a development path, and I think so far what I am doing is a lot better. However, there obviously, I don't know if you've noticed, but there was a big major gap in the development of the last update and this recent update. So that was several reasons, but that was something that was really hard for me. And if I had paying or somebody funding me, that pressure probably would have gotten to me a lot, and it probably would have affected me mentally, which is something that I'm trying to stay away from, because this is just a well, not a side project, but it is a project, but it's a project that was made in a game that was in 2015, right? And therefore, me getting stressed over a game that, I mean, not a whole lot of people play my mod, and I know this because I view the stats. I know what I'm looking at. Therefore, I'm not going to stress about it too much. If I, in a later date, feel more comfortable, maybe. But I just don't want to have that responsibility right now, because I'd feel terrible, and I don't want to feel terrible. I already feel terrible, and it's free, so I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, about shapes. There are more shapes that are going to be available, hopefully in the later dates, mainly because they are filled out. So we already have the slope, which is great. That's something that's awesome. I probably will add more slopes with the other blocks as well. Then we have the stairs, which is great. Also, have you tried to approach the original creator to get the rights of the game, i.e., copyright transferred since he gave up, or do you not have to do that because it's a mod? So there have been several people that approached the original creator, quite a bit actually, and have tried to ask for the game, the rights to the game, the rights to the Steam page or something like that. I don't think they either A got a hold of him or B they were declined because there is another project out there that is being worked on. I think it's called S- uh, Satis. I can't ever remember the name. That is inspired by this game and is being worked on currently. But they do not have the rights to this game, and I know for sure that they asked for the rights. Now, have I personally asked him? No, I have not asked him. I don't plan to ask him. I don't think it would be worth it. A, I don't have the money. B, and I just don't know what the outcome of that or what the implications of that would be. C, um, because it's a mod, I don't necessarily think that it's like necessary to copyright my work. Eventually, I do if I ever feel like I am not going to be able to work on it or work on it very well. I eventually do think I want to open it up so the source will be available to everybody. I don't want to be like Robert, how he went away and we don't have access to anything unless you specifically ask Z. And Z is very specific on certain things, access to the source code, I mean. So if you'd have to be very careful. For me, I don't have to. I'm just a mod developer. I'm not using this for any kind of monetary gains. I'm just kind of just making this add-on to the game, which I don't think they would have any problem with because they already have API and not a whole lot, but it's something. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Blocks, there are more shapes that we can add into the game in a future date. So we have the flooring here. We have more of a wedge-like, and that's kind of like a sideways slope. I think eventually maybe we'll add that. I'm not sure if that's necessarily something that I am thinking about adding in yet. But that will be something for a later date, possibly. I think that will be something that will be very cool. Now let's get into before I do that. Actually, let me get a drink. So, let's see here. Let's actually make sounds for a second. So animals, animals. I haven't actually experimented with animals and taking care of them with a herder. I think that's what this guy is. Yeah, herder. Um, that's broken. I don't know why that is. But that guy, we're gonna see a lot of that. By the way, we're gonna have a lot of that's broken, and I don't know why. They're probably problems that I thought about fixing and have tried to fix them that just didn't work out, and therefore I'll have to retry stuff eventually. But this has been an always issue ever since I've been modding the game. I've been having that happen, so I don't know what that is. I don't even know if that's my fault. So, anywho, we've got to talk about animals. Animals. So, wolves and sheep, and I'm talking about the not undead. So that would be wolves, sheep, hogs, or whatever the boars. I think they're called boars. Chickens. Um, those are something that I cannot for the life of me spot one. Pause. Here we go. Here's a boar. Yeah. Um, so I really like that we have animals. However, I also hate the way that they're implemented. I'm not sure if I will touch them, but I did want to make a mental note or have a note out there in the great wild of the internet that this is also something that I've been thinking about domesticating animals and specifically wolves as well, domesticating them so then they would become dogs, and I think that would be spectacular. However, I just don't know how that would work because they're hostile. So how would the herder approach them, and would it be OP to use the herder to domesticate them because they'll just pick them up and then it wouldn't matter, because you could just domesticate all of the wolves and they'll never ever be a problem. And then they might be OP to where once you domesticate all the wolves, you could just use them as a way to defend you against more wolves and bring more into your fold. I don't know. So I've been thinking about stuff like that, adding more of like a fun little mechanic, but it's pretty different to just think about an idea, but implementing an idea is totally different. It's a quite a big step right there. Okay, so let's get into professions. Professions is definitely something that I want to work on. Now, I want to stress that very much. I have been very, very much thinking of ideas and also trying to implement ideas. I'm not going to go into any details of that, but of professions, of new professions that we will maybe see at some point. I don't know if it's when it's going to be. It's not going to be anytime soon, so please bear that in mind, please. But professions is something that I definitely want to take a look at, and that doesn't just mean adding new professions, but that's going over the professions that we currently have right now. We have I think in total, uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 professions as of currently. I think there are just a little bit more than that are not available, but they are coded in the game. Not from me, from the base game. I just don't think they have them implemented all the way. But I think there are some things that I want to do with professions, and I think that would be really cool, especially with the ideas that I was spewing out earlier in the Discord, in the game suggestions part of the forums. If you didn't know, I made a little game suggestions area inside of the forums on the Discord page, and basically I was talking about festivals and taverns and stuff like that, and I thought it would be really, really cool to add that mechanic because taverns, you could bring in more merchants or even just more settlers, and it'd be harder to. They would be higher skilled migrants, but they would be harder to bring in. So they would have to have either given a monetary value, like something like I don't know, gold coins or something like that, or you'd have to try to coax them into being in your settlement by giving them a bunch of alcohol, which is something that I really want to implement really badly. Alcohol. How are you going to make it? First off, implementing that part is the toughie. Second off, what it's going to do. We have to have some kind of like why am I making alcohol other than making it? Why do we need this? Why is it necessary? Why is it a core part of the actual mod or of the actual settlement? You need to think about happiness, morale, stuff like that. What is that going to entail? Energy. Maybe it brings your bonus XP, or maybe it just makes it easier to gain XP. Um, Maybe it buffs you in some kind of way. I don't know. Something that I have been thinking about, but I'm not necessarily sure how I'm going to totally implement it. But that is why I'm making this stream. It's so then people know what my thoughts are. Again, not necessarily that this is going to be an added feature, but that I'm thinking about it and I would love your inputs, because this is something that I am not. I'm good at thinking of ideas, but implementing the ideas is a total different ballgame. You have to work with several different systems. You have to make sure that the systems work together in harmony, because if you have something and it just doesn't flow very well with the gameplay, it's bad. It sucks. So, yeah. So let's talk about. Let's see here. What are we going to talk about now? So, I guess we'll talk about groups. So groups are going to be a big thing, big thing in the next update. Hopefully, I don't want to get your guys' hopes up again. It might not be, but I hope that it's going to be something everybody wants. I'm trying not to get too much into depth of what I'm trying to talk about, but groups, as of right now, as you can see, this is what we have. You can add groups, you can add specific units to your groups, but groups are not just going to be a grouping mechanic. There will also be other things attached to groups. This is not just the only thing. It's not just going to be UI. So I'm going to put that out there. I think that's going to be something that is going to be well worth it, taking my time trying to implement it. So we'll see if it's going to be in the next update. I'm going to try, but it might not. Who knows? Okay? Just trying to put that out there. Because again, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. I hate being one of those developers that talks about stuff and then getting people's hopes up. Don't. Please don't. Hype is not worth it. So the next thing that we can talk about would probably be looking more in depth into the UI, because we have covered what I wanted to do, but let's look at some concepts. Let me pull that up right now. Aha, there we go. A sprite, Oh, and if you've been wondering how I am doing my pixel art, or some of my art in general, as you can see, some of this stuff is custom made. Like the letters below right here, that is somewhat custom made. I've taken inspiration from the lettering inside of the Tempered Stone logo, and I have therefore made an entire alphabet with it, and hopefully going to add more as well. But I don't know if I'm going to release it, but who knows? If enough people ask me, maybe. Let's see here. What am I trying to look for? It is something to do with you. There we go. I was right. Okay, so first thing that we're going to discuss is this. Yeah. This is kind of what I was talking about in inside of the UI in the forums. This is kind of a very early prototype of what I was working on, but this has more things that I'm going to discuss. So I think this right here is from the game. Yeah, I think this is from the game. So ignore this and look at this over here, this guy. So this is kind of a very early version of the concept that I was working on for the resources menu. And it doesn't have everything that we discussed, but it has enough to where you can kind of see. So what it is you have a little drop down of the thing that you have selected, and then you can see the recipe. You need to know the recipe from it. You need to know the name from it. You need to know the math from it. You need to know the level that it needs to be made. So you need to know all of those things simply by either clicking it, or it needs to be available somewhere else. So that is something that's very important. It's not like Minecraft where you're literally just getting that and there's a recipe and the name. There's more to it, and it's a little bit harder because the settlers are actually the ones that take care of the actual recipeing. But you need to know what needs to go inside of it. You need to know how much of the resources you need. You need to know the level and etc. So that's what's important there. Let's go ahead and open up this project. I'm using a program called YED. So this is the latest version of my concept for the resources menu. The resources menu is something that I am working on because the design menu is a little bit more complex. It needs a little bit more work, and I'm not necessarily sure where I want to go with it. So I'm going to take my time with that one. But there will be a resources menu, and I might update the GUI maybe with this resources menu, hopefully. And basically what's happening here is that much like the A Sprite, this one, much like this one over here will have tooltips, will have an actions menu. So if you right click something, it will pop up. You want to add this to the queue, or do you want to do other things, etc. And then you have the queue over here built into the resources. I think that was necessary because that's tied to the resources menu, in my opinion. None of the colors, none of the textures, anything like that are actually applied to the game. Well, it would not look like this at all. It probably won't even resemble it at all. So it will be very different whenever it is implemented in the game. Right now, it's not. I need to be very specific when I say that. It is not implemented right now. So, yeah, you can right-click these items. So these boxes right here are items. You right-click them, and they have like just something like this, where you have a little pop-down where you can click things, like if you want to add resources, if you want to set a limit to resources or something like that. I don't know yet. But there will be more things. I have somebody did make a really great suggestion about pinning resources. I definitely think I want to pin resources. You will be able to drag stuff into the queue to add it. You will only be able to add one into the queue by doing that, but you will be able to do that. So dragging items will be a thing that you can do. I don't know if that will be implemented when we have all of it. I think that will be a later addition. For now, I think I'll just have the basic stuff, so where you can actually just right-click it and do that. But then, like, the more polished version will be probably later down the line. I think want to be specific with that as well. Next, as you can probably didn't see, I didn't have the storage, so that would be stuff like this guy. Load. There we go. That'd be stuff like this guy, where you have the armor and how much you have stored, weapons, tools, food, wheat, treasure, wood, metals, masonry, miscellaneous. Where is that going to go? because we're getting rid of this section too. We will make that visible, period. We will make that visible on the screen. Kind of like if you've ever played Stellaris, they have bars up. They have a bar at the top of the screen, much like we have one up here. And basically, you have the resources as an icon, and then they have the amount that is stored underneath it. We will probably do something like that. I think we're simply going to do something like that because instead of pinning resources on the side like you did here, I think it would be nicer just to have them like the things that you really want. Like I think we will get rid of armor and then put that somewhere else. And weapons, probably tools, and miscellaneous, and metals. We'll maybe put metals up there. I don't want to crowd the top too much, but right here you'd have something like, oh, this is if you would have a tooltip as well. Tooltips will be a great thing. Tooltips are great, but you'll have a tooltip. If you hover over it, it'll just say like, you have this much actually stored, blah blah blah, whatever. Because it's just gonna have like a 38. It's not gonna have this out of 40, and it's gonna be red if it's getting close. And then you hover over it, and it tells you it's out of 40. Or something like that, so you can have more detailed information. So it's just going to be like a summary, pretty much. Now, there is problems with that. If you can't pin the stuff right here, masonry is also counted with things like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have stone. It means that you have other things that are counted as masonry. So let's take a look at that. So we have 248 raw stone, but if you process it into a brick, that is still considered masonry. So therefore, I don't know if we will have masonry like this, but we might put it up here, and then if you hover, we might put specifically this raw stone up here, and then if you hover over it, it will tell you how much storage you have for masonry. I think. I don't know. We'll see. I'm still thinking about it, still trying to figure out what I want to do with it, how it's going to be, stuff like that. I have thought about reworking the storage system mechanics as well to be less global. So you instead of putting this will be more of a local storage where you'd have, you can only store this amount here, but it doesn't count to the actual total storage, which will be a little bit weird to implement. But if you've ever played a game called, it would still be counted up here, but it would be more local. So like if you have something built here, like a raw wood stack and a raw wood stack over here, this raw wood stack would be would have a value, and that value isn't necessarily representative of the whole of the. It's not like a global, like, oh, this one's got 39, but this one over here has got 39 as well. No, it would be more specific, as in this one has 20 and this one has 12. So this one has more wood in it. And if it gets to 0, it disappear. Something like that maybe would be cool. You'd have to do trade routes, stuff like that. I think that would be pretty cool. But for now, I have stayed away with it from it because that would be a very hard thing to implement and get right. I think a lot of people would probably hate that. Probably hate that a lot. Specifically because this system is a lot easier and a lot easier to implement. So that's something else. What are other things that I think need to be talked about? We've talked about the major things: UI, blocks, shapes, animals, professions, updates. What else? UI? I know we talked about that. I know I said I didn't necessarily want to add new blocks, but it's something that will happen, probably, maybe. Who knows? Do. Let me take a look at the Discord real quick. Okay. Somebody has asked in the game suggestions adding a survival mode, but that is much harder. As the game is very easy right now and a guarantee win. There is room for that. I have made the options, not that, world settings. I have made them peaceful or hard. As you can see, there is no easy mode right now, and there is no like hardcore or something like that. There is room for that. I just haven't thought about it, haven't added it in, haven't really done anything too much with it. But there is always room for it. World settings will have a more specific thing as well. But for right now, world settings about where it's at. Oh gosh. I think another thing that I wanted to add, which I think is something that would be very nice, is much like Door Fortress, where you can select your starting resources, your starting professions, or something like that. So there's like a default. Your default is random professions. Your default is random levels with those professions, and your default is random items. For you, you'd have if you wanted to make a custom like list of resources that you want to start out with, you can, but they will be based off of points, and those points will be representative of like, so you'll have a certain amount of points that you can have of the items that you can start out with. So those items could be, I want to start out with a little bit of stone. So that's worth like 2 points out of 1,000. Let's say you only get 1,000. So I want to start out with like 16. So you're going to have about 32 points out of that 1,000 already dwindled down because you wanted 16 stone. Next, you wanted maybe some gold. For some reason, you wanted to start out with some gold. Gold would be pretty pricey. That'd probably be like 500, or I don't know exactly, but something like that. It's not necessarily represented off of their actual value in game, but it's represented off of the value of you're starting out with it. Therefore, it's expensive. And you only have so much room in your, like, every time I play the game and start up a new world, you could think like, oh well, they're going from one place, so the wagon can only carry so much. So you need to have some kind of limit. You can't just add a whole bunch of stuff. You got to balance it out a little bit. Tools will be somewhat decently expensive. They won't be terribly expensive, but they will be somewhat expensive. So you can grab hoes, you can grab pickaxes, you can grab axes. You can grab the more expensive ones, like the sharp ones, or etc. I think what they do is they give you more output, and I think they last longer. I can't remember. But you can do that if you want to. You can get yourself anything that is an item, and but it would be worth points. It would be expensive depending on how late game it is, and yeah, that's pretty much it right there. I think that would be cool. Or scenarios. Scenarios would be awesome. I would love to play scenarios. Like, you have a castle that's already built, so it's a scenario. You have to defend your castle from a group of wolves or a group of enemies, something like that. I think that would be cool. Right now, I'm just discussing this. This isn't something that I'm planning on doing, but this is something that I have thought of. I think that would be really cool. It would be probably a later thing because I have other things that I want to implement right now. But if it is something that you guys want, if it is something that you think would be cool to add into the game, that you think that it would be pretty cool and awesome to play with, then let me know and I'll give it some thought. I'll give it some thought and try to see about making it a thing. Back to the menu button. So this has been requested before, and I have actually implemented at one point before. The reason why it is not a thing right now, and you currently don't have that option, is because back to the menu broke the game. The lighting was weird when you restarted, when you played the game, a new game, or just reloaded the game that you were playing. Not just the lighting was weird, but all of the actual everything was just weird. It was not playable. Therefore, I decided to get rid of it. I didn't know how to fix it yet, other than resetting the game entirely. Or what I could do is literally back to the menu. What it could do is that it could close this application and reopen it again. I don't know how hard that would be, but that's a workaround right there. And there's other things as well. With that, I do want to back to the menu button. I've tried to implement that, and something that I just really want is that, because I have been wanting to go back and forth between different settlements, maybe, or other things, etc. Just haven't been able to figure the issues out for that just yet. Let's see. I think that is it. If anybody has any questions, I don't know if there's anybody watching, but if anybody has any questions, or any suggestions or anything like that, go ahead and ask away. I'd love to know. While we're doing that, I guess I'll play some of that good old Timber and Stone music. Again, there is a delay, so that's the reason why I'm waiting. Okay, that is gonna do it, I think. I think with this live stream, I think the future has never looked brighter. I think it's never looked brighter. It's never looked, I don't know, it's looking good on here. I think it's gonna be a great thing for the community. I think it's gonna be a great thing for me. I think it's a great thing for the project. The live stream is just going to open the doors to lots of different things that people have been wondering. It's because right now, a lot of the things that I have added were a little bit of, in my opinion, not a really gameplay features, but they are the early versions of the mod. But yeah, I mean, like that's pretty much the entire gist of what I've been trying to figure out for a year or two. I can never remember. I think it's been a year, but it could be a little bit longer. I started a while back. I remember whenever I first started, we I didn't have access to the source code at all. I was trying to do it by discovering things, and that was hard. And then now I have the source code, but it still doesn't make it. It makes it easier, yes, but it doesn't make it like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. There's lots of little things that I have to do in order to add things, and that's the reason why there's two things. There's the Mithril API and Mithril mod. Mithril API is actually the base game, just modified. And then the Mithril mod is my mod. And why is that? Because if I want team members, I need to have a mod. And it would be easier just to have it all in the game, but I am the only one on the team currently that has access to the source code. And that means that people who are playing or who are modifying the plugin, which is the mod, they all pretty much have access to that. They just don't have access to the source code, which is the API mod. The API, not the mod. Sorry, it's confusing. I'm sorry, I'm confusing it even more. But yes, just be aware that it takes a lot of effort um to add stupid things to add things that are not here, it would be a lot simpler, especially since this is my first project as well. That's kind of the tough part, that I'm just trying to get used to it. And I think so far I have learned a lot, not just about modding, but about how to be productive ish. I use that loosely, but how to have a pretty good project that I'm working with a group of team members, which is really good. Is really good. All right, so that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. And again, I'm sorry that this stream started really weird. Didn't know what a good time was. Next time, maybe would have been a good idea to have a poll on what time it should start, and maybe schedule it a little bit further than, this Friday. But I think it's all good. I think it was decent. I'm not gonna lie. I had fun. So, thank you for watching, and